Hey, this is Justin with Day Trade the Markets. It is Wednesday, the 6th of June, 12:12 Eastern Time, and got a limit order to get short around oh 06 or 1604.50, I should say. Just a little bit of background on this. We've been bouncing off this 0550, which is um, if you look at a daily chart of the ES. This is a big gap that we had from early May that we're testing into, and we're finally, we bounced off it several times yesterday. We bounced off it earlier today. We tried to get some buying off of it the latest time we tested about 20 minutes ago. That has failed. Now we're back below this 0550. We even got some level 3 selling that came in. So the idea here is that, I think we're going to keep eating into this to this gap. The high of this level 3 bar should, I say in quotes, should act as resistance, as well as this 0550 area. It should act as resistance. So I'm in at 0450. I think a 2 point stop is relatively reasonable. This. I want to give it a little bit of room, but not too much. This thing should take off pretty quickly if it's going to. I'm going to put a first target a little bit tighter than I normally would toward the early low of the day. My first expectation would be that it's going to test down to the low of that level 3 bar, and then beyond that, I'm going to let this thing run out as much as I can if I can get that. So that's my thinking at this point. The first target's a little tighter than I normally do, but again, we are in a, although I like the short side, this is an area that at any point, could be for a longer term position trader, could be an attractive spot for a buy. So while I'm a shorter term trader, I like to look at the structure, and the structure today is pretty clearly bearish. In that we've got some level 3 selling that came in here. We're now we rejected this level 2 buying that tried to come in at support. Now we're back below it, and we've got a level 3 selling bar. So it's showing me that sellers are pretty strong right now. So I know I don't personally want to be on the long side, and so then I asked myself, do I want to be on the short side, or can I identify a pretty low risk place to be on the short side? And I think I can. I think I've got pretty good potential resistance here. I mean, my filter's with me again, obviously. So we'll see. I want to kind of get the risk off the table on this pretty quickly if I can, and then see if I can capture a decent run out on the 60% of this position. Again, not a huge position, but it's okay. The So that's kind of where we are at this point. If we can't make new lows relatively soon, and hit my first target, or we get some strong buying aggression that comes into the market, I can certainly get out. But that's kind of my thinking here. Hopefully we'll go. At this point we're testing the lows, and we should, if the selling is pretty strong, we should be able to take out these lows. That's my expectation. If that doesn't happen, I'm willing to get out of the trade relatively quickly and take a small loss. So we'll see. Um, yeah, so um, let's see. Just kind of in a waiting game at this point, to see what we can get, if we can get these lows taken out. I'd like to see that happen pretty quickly. I can I can just pause it while well, it looks like we're testing right at the price. So if I can get a fill here pretty quickly, that would be nice. Just kind of get the risk off the table. It's trying.
Target filled.
There we go. So I'm through. I've basically got a no risk trade on the table at this point. So what my plan is here is I'm going to basically expect that the low of that gap from early May is around 94.25. So if we can get down to 95.50, if we can get the 9 points or so, I would certainly take that. But I'll plan on, if we can get some more selling aggression that can come into this market on the way down, then I'll just trail my stop down a bit. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But that's my plan at this point. I've got a no risk trade on the table, and so we'll just see. I'd like to see, the market's on this bar here decelerated a little bit. And again, I don't get too hung up on deceleration. It's a very short term indicator. It's the type of thing that, if I've got other evidence for getting long or short and deceleration comes in, that's great. I'm not going to get out of a trade just because I see it. I mean, it could be the time to get out, but I feel like I have a low risk trade here, and I want to leave the opportunity on the table. But deceleration basically means that this bar here you see had a lower low than this bar, but it had a lower low, but the level of selling aggression was actually slowing down or decelerating. So all things equal, you would expect, at least in the short term, for the market to turn around. Because if we have a bar with a lower low, but the level of selling aggression within that bar, kind of under the surface of the market, if that was increasing, well, then our expectation would be for it to continue downward. Okay, so it's telling us in the very short term this thing could turn. I think if you get too caught up in decelerations, you kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. So I still feel like bigger picture, we have some potential downside here. So I'm not just going to bail out at the first line of a deceleration. The way I look at a deceleration is, if I've already got, I use it more on entry, I suppose. If I've already got reasons for getting long or getting short in a certain area, and then I see deceleration, that's giving me that extra 1 or 2% confirmation that things are probably, it's a pretty good turning point. It's extra confirmation. So that's the idea here. I'm not just going to bail out on a trade. Some people might, and that could be reasonable. But my logic is just kind of hold on. There's still, my risk is minimal relative to the potential opportunity here. So what I'll do here is go ahead and pause the video and come back on if more develops. Okay, you can see here we have a level 2 selling bar that came in the last bar. So I'm just going to bring my stop a couple ticks above its high, and just expect this thing, lock in some profit on that final part of the position, with the expectation that the high of that level 2 bar quote should hold, and if it doesn't, then at least it's turning around. Now, if this wasn't this area from 0550 to basically 1595, if this wasn't a potential support zone, bigger picture, I wouldn't keep my stop that tight. I would want to give it as much room as possible to run out. But at this point, like I said, from a longer term, I try to tell the story of what's going on in the market, and longer term, this zone in here, on a daily chart, if you look at it here, I mean this zone from a longer term perspective, if you're a position trader, longer term trader, I mean this market's in a bull run since Thanksgiving time, right? So we've got this gap, which could be a good buying opportunity on the long term. Okay, so I want to be a little bit careful, a little bit nimble, lock in profit a little bit sooner if that's the case. Okay, so and it's certainly looking like I'm going to get stopped out here relatively soon. We'll wait and see, but you know, that's okay. I felt like that this was there was a lot of let me bring this down a little bit. A lot of bearish structure short term in the market, again with failure of a move higher on level 2 buying, strong buying aggression that didn't really have any follow through. And then we have a level 3 selling right there, extreme selling aggression, high velocity move right here at this 0550 support zone, which has been kind of we've knocked on that door several times in the last couple of days, or in the last day and a half I should say. We got a little bit of buying that came in there, but that didn't hold, and then we got more selling aggression. So I mean, from a short-term trader's perspective, sellers are in control. Now you have to balance that against longer term. This is a zone of potential support, so that's why I'm being a little more nimble as opposed to giving it more room. Now this thing may take off and I get lucky by a tick. I don't know. We'll see. But that's the logic. So we'll kind of monitor that. If we can, you can see we decelerated and had a little bit of a run up, but now we're taking out the low of that. And if we can do that on some decent selling aggression, that would certainly be good, and that might bode well for a nice run down a little bit lower. So what I can do is I can pause this again and get back when there's more action. Okay, it's only a minute or two later, but I just wanted to show this. This is my main chart here is a 1 minute chart. You can use this on literally any time frame, longer term, shorter term. Here's a shorter term chart than that, what I call kind of a micro chart, which is a 15-second chart. I don't like to trade off this. I mean, I suppose some people could. You just kind of wait for the market to have a nice filter and get in at the zones. You could do that, but we're seeing some pretty decent selling aggression on the very short term here as we're making new lows. That's also translating down here on the 1 minute chart. We've got some more new lows. So this thing looks like it wants to really have a nice move lower, and so I just at this point I want to give it a little more room to do so. Again, you can see on this 15-second chart we're getting some pretty good selling to come into the market. So I don't want to be too tight with my stop. I want to give this some room because it's got the potential to kind of run out. But I think I will still leave this second target here at the low of that gap, and if the market pierces through that with no trouble, I can always opt to get in again below 90, 94.25. But at this point, I think, and here you see we've got some real strong selling that's coming into the market. I'm going to take my stop and put it up here above this start of this selling wave, and just see what happens here. And again, that's just being reiterated here on this shorter term chart as well, with some real strong selling that's coming in. It started up here where I looked to get into the trade on the 15-second chart, and it's just really accentuating. So want to see if we can get down to the low of that gap and be a nice trade. It's really running out nicely here. My guess is certainly that if I start to see any kind of buying, I'll probably get out. This thing's gone down now 7 points. It's a balance at this point between, do I want to give back 5 points and just make 2, versus I want to give it enough room to go down. Now I'm starting to see this deceleration makes me a little bit worried, and it was our first sign of any buying here on the shorter term chart. So that gives me pause. We're getting some pretty good runs, so I think at this point now it's a balance, because I'm kind of thinking about money, but not necessarily. Now it's 50-50. I can lock in basically 4 points, or I can get 5 more, but I'm starting to see the first sign of some buying. So when you see this much decelerated, and there's so much white space on each side of the bar, it gives me some pause that some buying has come into the market here. You can see what I mean there by white space on each side of the bar. It's leaving this bar out kind of like an island, if you will. And so that's showing us rejection of price at that level. It didn't quite get down to the level I was hoping. Okay, so I at least locked in some profit there. Decent trade. I suppose I could have been a little more aggressive and gotten out right away when I saw on this 15-second chart the first sign of some buying. But like I said, it's a balance. I wanted to give it room, and I think it may very well go down to that 94.50 area before it's all said and done. But I just didn't feel like it made sense to give back 7 and only make 2 give back 5 points when it's already gone 7 in my favor. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's a good trade. I wish, in hindsight, it's obviously easier, but you just try to make the best decisions you can. To some degree, I almost got stopped out by a tick here. So in some sense, I was very lucky to get what I did. But I think that I still think, or I'm sorry, it was I put a stop 2 ticks above this bar, and it almost stopped me out right there. So I came within a tick of getting stopped out there. So in a sense, I was lucky to get what I got. But I think that kind of raises an interesting question here before I wrap this up. Is you're never going to be perfect. Perfect. I would have said, well, I should have gotten out as soon as that deceleration came in. That would have been perfect in hindsight, right? But you don't have hindsight, so all you can do is try to make the best decision that you can at the given time. But more importantly than that, and this is what I think is hard, is living with the consequence of that decision. In other words, I very easily could have been stopped out right here, and then this thing takes off without me. How do I feel about that? Am I pissed off, or do I say, okay, well, I made a decision that I thought that this was a good place for a stop because this level 2 bar, the high of it, should hold, and if it doesn't, then it's telling me some buying's coming in an area, bigger picture, where there could be some buying that comes in, right? So I have to live with that, even if it takes off. Now, what happens if I, you know, could have kept my stop up here where it was and this thing goes down and sells off? Well, I could have done that, but I have to just live with the decision I made based on the evidence that I saw at the time. So I hope that makes sense, and hopefully that's helpful. And if you have any questions, let us know. Talk to you soon.